Hi there, Will here, and for some time now I've wondered how close one can get the functionality of a Mamiya RB67 to that of an RZ67. Now, they're obviously totally different cameras, but there are some bits and bobs that you can source for an RB that'll make it quite similar in function and hopefully photographic look to an RZ, namely a KL lens, a motorized back, and I guess ideally probably a brighter viewfinder because the RZ viewfinder is better, and maybe a hot shoe adapter. I've managed to source all of those things thanks to the lovely folks over at Cape Film Supply, so if you're ever in Cape Town and need a spot to have film developed, that is where I would recommend going. And I guess what we're going to do is take some side-by-side photographs and compare what they look like on the RB67 and the RZ67. I'm going to make these photos inside for a few reasons. One, to control variables, because I made one photograph outside and already messed up by not switching the motorized back to mirror up mode and thus wasted a frame. Two, because a lot of this lovely camera stuff doesn't actually belong to me and I don't want to get it misplaced by hanging around in the wrong area at the wrong time, which is a possibility around these parts. And three, because it is a pretty miserable rainy day outside. And in trying to be as empirical as possible about this, I am using the same tripod setup for the RB and the RZ, and running that sort of scenario is pretty difficult in the outside world. If I had two quick releases for this tripod, it would be somewhat easier, but I don't, so this is the option available to us. This mirror up business is way too stressful. I'm just gonna use the strobe now. I'm not just gonna use the strobe because I just did this by accident and I really like it. Need something more. The mirror up procedure on the RZ is pretty much the same as the RB. You just put the cable release in and tighten it until it pulls out the mirror up setting, which is much better than the RB's little switch one, because you can't forget it on because the cable release is in there, and if the cable release is in, then it's in mirror up. But the KL lens has that too, so that's real nice. I just moved the tripod. I just moved the tripod again. Okay, now I'm actually going to use the strobes. Pleased to announce that I took the first shot without recording on the RB, so here comes the second strobe shot, the first one on video, with the RZ. The aspect ratio seems slightly different on this RB. And they're both 90s. Maybe I'm just thwacking the tripod around and I remove and move things. There's a lot of fine balancing going on around here. Solid. I think I've got enough direct comparisons now. I might just chuck this little Metz flash adapter thing on both of them intermittently and shoot some shots like that. Thank you to David for lending that to me, by the way. Flash. So, with those modifications, you pretty much can get an RB to function like an RZ. Is it worth it? I don't know, I guess it depends on you. If you want your RB to be single lever advance and have slightly more comparable optics to the RZ, then you can pick those up. They are more expensive than the standard things, but whether it's worth it or not is up to you. In terms of how close in sharpness the KL lens actually is to the Seiko Z lens, it's barely distinguishable. The RZ is definitely slightly sharper, but not in a way that you'd notice if you're using it on the internet or even printing really big. People probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between an RZ and a KL photograph. Looking at the pictures directly, the RB ones are slightly more contrasty than the RZ ones for some reason. That could be because the filter that I thought was a UV filter on the RB is actually a Mamiya 1A, and I'm not certain what that is. It could still be a UV filter, and it could be the glass making things more contrasty, but I'd say keep that in mind. And again, looking at the sharpness between them, it's barely distinguishable. And, as a matter of fact, in spite of the brighter viewfinder on the RZ, I still missed focus more frequently with it because the focus lock lever is so close to the focus knob on the RZ that you're actually quite likely to just slightly knock it off while you're adjusting the focus lock, which wouldn't have been a problem if I wasn't using mirror up to try and get the photos more sharp, ironically. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And as a last thing, I'd like to thank Cape Film Supply again for lending me these cameras, because I wouldn't have been able to do this without them, so check them out if you're around. It's quite fun constructing still lifes anyway. It's a... Fuck up.